more than 1,000 paintings in less than 8,000 days. How about that? Welcome back on Laughing Museums. My name is Cedric, and today we are talking about Nicolas de Staël, who lives in Nice, who lives in NT, but the guy is coming from Russia. Then he lived in Poland, and he had this very, very complex life. He lost both his parents when he was 5 or 6 years old. He was living with an adoptive family, then he didn't get along with them anymore. His career was a massive, massive drama. Got married twice, got 5 kids, and got recognized really lately in his career per se, let's say 5 years, basically before he passed, right? A few things I want to say about Nicolas de Staël. He's a fascinating artist, as I was writing an article for my next book on painting about abstract art and figurative art, and he's the one who said, pissing a lot of people, and I love when people piss off a lot of people, like Renoir, like Monet, like a lot of people back in the days, and still today for Renoir, for example. And de Staël piss off a lot of people when he say, I think a painting should be both figurative and abstract. Go figure out what that means. The history will remind his work as non-figurative. We had to literally create a word to describe his work. It will have a massive influence on abstract expressionism. A school from New York. I did a video on Alfred Kelly that you can check, or maybe it's coming soon, but it's in the months right there. And I come back from a fantastic exhibit on abstract expressionism in general. Not Alfred Kelly, by the way. Is the one he will influence is the a fantastic painter that I love her work. Her work is named Joan Mitchell. What I like about de Staël is like he made massive painting. I made massive painting. Paul Rosenberg, his most famous second seller, would give him some painting back because he says that they're too heavy. I can't sell this because they're just simply too heavy. I really always find a lot of irony in the fact that a painting could be too heavy, and that's true. Some paintings, especially the one that I saw, could be around 300 kilos. I think 300 was a number of de Staël, because in the last year of his life, in 54, he painted 300 paintings, and in the last months of his life, in early May 55, he painted 350 paintings in a month. That's crazy. And he was frightening his seller, Paul Rosenberg, who used to tell him, don't paint too much because you're troubling the market out there, and people won't get that. And he answered, I do what I want. I want to paint, I paint, you know. At the end, the son of Paul Rosenberg will tell him, you're not painting with the same technique, which was with a knife, right? I was making massive paste. They describe his work as masonry, like really, because he was making massive paste on it, and that's why the paintings and the canvas were so heavy. And that's why then at the end he came back to painting with oil and diluting, not oil, making water painting, and then the market, his merchant would say, whoa, don't do that. People are used to what you do. Stick with what you do. And again, de Staël was like, no, I feel like doing that. And that's why he's a guy who came from figurative, and then he went to abstract, and then he got back to figurative. But for him, there was not such thing as abstraction, right? As a matter of fact, he hated the whole movement of abstraction. At an exhibit, he had a famous play on words. He said, please do not put me with the abstraction avant. There was a gang back just after World War II called Le Gang des Tractions Avant. So it was a very violent gang that was like stealing and killing a lot of people. And for him, that's why the abstraction movement, and even like when he got his career kind of started, they proposed him to be part of some exhibit of abstract artists, and he always refused. He wanted to be a solo man. He didn't want to have anything to do with abstract artists. A little bit like Manet with Impressionism, if you want. Some people you can't really classify in a group of two, some don't want to. A little bit like Matisse with Fauvism as well, like they kind of refuse to be part of a group too much because it's too intense for them. So there's really, you have to recognize a few things by a painting. A friend of him who used to work with him in the studio used to say you can recognize the style, they just call him style, a painting with just 1 square centimeter of a painting. I love that. It's actually an exercise that teachers make you do when you learn about art history, how to recognize a painter just by a stamp of a painting and say, well, it's a Tintoretto, it's a Titian, it's a Da Vinci, whatever, stuff like that. I recommend that exercise if you get bored at one point during the winter time. What also interests me with de Staël is inspiration, right? One day, and probably his most famous painting called Parc des Princes, right there. So I'm also going to put you the actual stadium. So it's a stadium that's famous for soccer, but also I've seen rugby in that stadium. So the fact that I know the stadium is funny. So it's the stadium of the Paris soccer team. And I don't watch soccer anymore. I mean, I love going to stadium and watch live sport, but I kind of lost interest in sport on television a long time ago, and I'm just enjoying going to an even time, or even looking at a local team playing. I think is more exciting than actually looking some big event on television. And this Parc des Princes became a massive inspiration for him, and he will give that painting from 52, Parc des Princes, which is still today, I think, his most famous work. He made a series of it. There's some in the US, there's some all over the planet, so it's really everywhere. And I really enjoy the fact that he got inspired by such a thing as a soccer game. How crazy that, right? The lack of nobility of the subject, which always is a big debate in art history, such as a soccer game, became something very subtle, and his most famous painting. He lived, when I was talking about his biography, in absolute poverty, almost everywhere, especially in Paris. They were struggling. They hardly have enough food for their 2 kids back in the day, because you'll have 3 kids with his second wife, and they can hardly feed the kids. I mean, how crazy is that? And he keep believing in his work. His wife died of abortion, and because she was not fed well enough and her health was too fragile. So kind of technically it's almost like he's kind of responsible for that, which is awful. You can imagine after losing your parents, losing your wife, probably because she helped you struggle with painting. How crazy is that? And probably a dictator of a own care. Anyway, my point is that nowadays, ironically enough, paintings of de Staël very quickly go up to 10 million and sometimes up to $20 million. Right? What else I wanted to say? That's mostly what you can tell about de Staël. The painting, maybe just a word about the painting that I've seen, which is at Antibes at the famous Musée Picasso. Antibes is the last place. It's called the Musée Picasso. It could have been called the de Staël Museum, but you always see both work of Picasso and de Staël. And de Staël was a father of 5, I was telling you, and he was only 51 when he opened the window. I don't know how to say that properly. I have a problem with suicide artists, but you can't avoid de Staël, and after all, that's a biographic note more than anything in his work, and that's very troubling for me, the fact that he died this way, especially leaving 5 kids behind. So yeah, of course, there's a lot of money, but I don't think anything replaces a family per se. Wanted to finish on a happy note. Yeah, that painting, which is his last painting, by the way, called The Concert, is really a good definition of what a non-figurative, called The Concert, sorry, is what a non-figurative painting is. He was famous for going in Paris in a salon where we talk a lot about music, and he was always going to concerts of music, so really have a fascination for classical music, which for a white Russian kind of makes sense, I guess. He was really famous for being a man of joy. Yeah, he was laughing a lot. And he was famous for that. His laugh would be like famous. His friends always remember his laugh, and the fact that he was a very, very joyful man, I think, spread in his work, sort of, even if it's this last painting, or even in soccer, and every verse was a joy, and you really have a full life, even if it was kind of a short one half quarter. That was Nicolas de Staël. I hope you enjoyed it. Do not hesitate to like, subscribe, to talk about it. If you want to support the channel, you can always go online and buy Love Your Way through the book copy just for you. It's 300 pages, yes, on painting in the Louvre. My next book is coming up next year, 2022. In the meantime, do not forget, if you're not doing it with a smile, well, you're doing it wrong.